This is DPS 1201, supplies management. We are discussing briefly lesson 3. That is on lesson 3 is on planning for materials, or materials planning in supplies management. So we're just discussing briefly what is materials planning. So materials planning is a very important concept in any business, because we have to actually plan and know the exact quantities of the materials that we use. So materials planning is ensuring that you have the optimum level or optimum mix of inventories or stock that you need, or the materials that you need. When we talk about the word optimal, the word optimal refers to the most average amount or the most adequate amount. So when you're talking about the optimal levels, we are meaning we don't want to acquire too much of the materials, neither do we want to acquire too less of the materials. If we acquire more, we may end up incurring so much of the cost. If we acquire very little, we may have a shortage of supplies, maybe in case there's a sudden demand. So acquisition of optimal levels of inventory is important, because at the end of the day, remember, we want to meet the customer's needs, or we want to meet the customer's demand. So materials planning is also the process of planning, organizing, staffing, directing, and controlling all the activities that are involved with the flow of materials. So these terms like planning, organizing, staffing, and directing and controlling, this is the management aspect, because some of the management skills entails things like planning, controlling, staffing, or coordinating, organizing. So the essence of this is to ensure that we are buying the right kind of materials, we are acquiring them at the time that they are required. There's a qualified person who is receiving the materials. They are being stored at the right way. Why would we take all this trouble of coordinating the flow of materials? Because one, we do not want to lose our stocks, because remember, you've already invested money. So if you're not careful on how we are directing or managing the materials, we are likely to incur some losses within the business. And we have to make sure that we are getting the value for money, and whatever we are acquiring, we are not just acquiring to store. We are acquiring materials because the customers need them. We are acquiring materials because the customers are waiting for them. We are acquiring materials because those are the right quantities of the materials that are required by the customer. So when we are dealing with the concept of materials planning, our aims are to make sure that we are able to acquire, or we are able to purchase the materials that are required by the production department or by the organization. Failure to which we are not able to supply or produce goods or product or services that are being required by the end customers. Okay, we also have to ask ourselves, how much of these materials are required? What is the quantities of the materials that are required? Because the more we buy, then it means we have got already more demand. So if the demand is more, we are likely to acquire more. If the demand is less, we are likely to acquire demand less. There is no point of acquiring materials in supply chain without doing appropriate demand forecasting. We have to do appropriate demand forecasting, because we want to know how much of materials are we going to buy. Because realize in supplies management or in any business, one of the major goals is to minimize on costs, and this cost minimization can also be created through acquiring only the required levels of stock. Okay, so there is also another aspect of so we have talked of the first point of what materials are required. So we have to have a need identification and exactly know the types of the materials that we need. Number two, we have to ask ourselves how much quantities of the materials are required. That is important. How much, that is the quantity. And number three, we have to ask ourselves before we do materials planning, when are they required? This is an aspect of time, because if we are likely to require materials for production next month, there's no need of buying materials right now if you can be able to get them maybe a day or 2 days before their production. The earlier you buy the materials, the more the cost you incur of maintaining those materials. If the production is the following day, then it is right to buy materials today. But if the production will be next year, why would you buy materials today when the production will still be taking place the following year? Okay, so the objectives of material planning can be as the same as the benefits of materials planning and management. So I need to clarify something. When we are talking about materials planning, to plan is to make arrangements of planning ahead. And in the talk of planning, you want to organize yourself as a purchasing department and ask yourself, like for example, do you have enough employees to be able to source for the materials? Number 2, do you have got enough finances to be able to source for the materials? Number 3, do you have the technology in place that will help you to source for those materials? Do you have enough storage facilities that you are going to store those materials? Do you have got enough labor force that is going to help you? So when you talk of materials planning is an aspect of trying to forecast or trying to lay some foundations or trying to establish how a particular system is going to work. So materials planning focuses on looking at the resources that you have and making sure that these resources you are going to utilize them. Materials management, on the other hand, management of materials occurs like, for example, maybe let's say after you buy, how well are you preserving? How well are you keeping? How well are you making sure that there are no losses, there are no privileges? How well are you making sure that the customers are getting whatever is required? How are you ensuring that you are buying the right quantity? That is what we talk about materials management. So when you talk of the objectives or benefits of materials management, there are so many benefits or objectives of that. Number 1, you're able to bring to the organization or to buy for the organization what they want. Number 2, you can be able to control the materials that you need because you are the one who came up with the need specification. So you are going to go to the market to buy exactly what you need. Number 3, you are able to minimize on the costs of the materials. 1, because you are going to buy exactly what you need, you are going to buy at the time when they are required, especially like using the concept of just in time. That means you'll not just be buying stock to just keep them. You'll be buying immediately to use them then, hence minimizing on cost. The another advantage or objective is you want to improve on the way you handle the materials. If there are some delicate materials that requires some delicate nature of how to handle them, probably you are going to buy technologies or machines or systems that are going to help you to handle those particular materials. And even if you're just dealing with ordinary stock, how you handle materials means that you'll set a system in place in the store, especially like hiring qualified staff who will be able to know how to handle those particular materials. So, and plus all those other benefits that are in that topic lesson of number 3 about materials planning. So we do material planning because we have got some resources in the company and we want to make effective use of these resources. We have got a particular budget and we only want to buy materials within that particular budget. We have got these employees working for this company, so we don't want to buy more materials than the capacity of we have inside the organization that can be able to handle. So material planning, whenever you are buying goods or whatever or services, you have to ask yourself as the maybe the owner of the company, what resources do you have? Remember the resources that you have, like money, or finances, technology, employees, transportation mechanisms, storage facilities. This is what is going to determine the kind of the materials that you are going to buy, the nature of the materials that you are going to buy, and also the quantities of the materials that you are going to buy, something like that. So just listen to this, read your notes, and I'm very sure you'll be able to understand maybe something extra that maybe might have escaped from your first reading.